Okay, let's have a look at just setting up some really simple grass with wind. So here's some grass. This has been painted with the foliage tool. It's just a blade of grass, probably not the most effective way to go about doing it. Clusters would probably be better because of draw calls and stuff and whatnot. One of the things I've done is I've avoided any alphas, so I'm not using any alpha textures here because that causes more slowdowns when it comes to rendering. So I'll show you how I built this piece of grass, the world's simplest thing. All very procedural, of course, like everything else I do. You can see that it's not moving at the bottom, it's only moving at the tip, so we're going to have to resolve that issue as well. So over in Max, I've just got my barrel here as just a size reference going on, and I'm going to go in and I'm going to grab a piece of grass. Maybe it's going to be that big, I guess, that sort of idea. So showing the wireframe, and we want to keep this as low as possible. So I'm going to make it maybe just, we'll keep it down that low and maybe about 3 or 4 high. I'm going to go and stick a taper modifier on it, and I'm going to move the center of the taper down to the bottom. So 2 in the keyboard for the center point, and taper that down. And you'll see it's not tapering. Everybody goes, it's broken, it doesn't work. Change your primary axis to whatever you need. So I'm going to taper that in, and I'm going to just flex it out. That's pretty much it. Okay. And we have a piece of grass going so far. I'm going to go and stick a vertex weld modifier on it to weld off the top, because we've got a bunch of points on the top here. So you just basically want to make sure that your weld threshold is high enough up that it welds correctly without welding stuff you don't want it to weld. So it will have welded this tip together and got rid of any extra vertexes there. I'm going to go and stick a bend modifier on it, and then we're going to bend this around sort of, there we go. So we bend it so it has some form, and then I'm going to stick a bend modifier on it, and I want to move the pivot again down to the bottom, 2 on the keyboard, so the center point of the bend down, and I'm going to bend that over and find the axis that works. That one looks like direction 90, and negative bend on it then, and I'll just bend my piece of grass over so it bends like that. There you go, piece of grass. That's simple. Material, throw a material on it real fast. And I'm going to use this incredibly bad texture I painted real fast a couple years ago to show this stuff. I'm just going to drop that in there, and I'll take that off the screen. And we're going to just throw this into, because I just want to see make sure everything's working right. I'm just going to go and put that into the base color of a physical. Come on. And right click, assign to material to selection, and you'll see we've got this mess. So we need to do a quick unwrap on it. So I'm going to go ahead and grab unwrap UVW, and I'm going to grab all of the polygons. So let's just select them all and make sure we've got everything. And I'll do a quick planar map. And so it gives us that, and then we can go ahead and show the material that we've put on it, which is this, I guess it's called flower JPEG for some reason. And I can go and decide which piece it's over, and then pick up the texture off it, and you can see I've got it textured correctly. So it's literally that simple to texture it. Let's just size that a little better, make sure it fits the piece of grass. But the idea being here is that I don't need an alpha channel. Okay, so my piece of grass is textured, no alpha channel, and that is a big advantage when it comes to game time, okay, for speed. So with that, my piece of grass is almost done. However, because again, over in our game, we need to be able to find some way to get our wind not to affect the bottom of the grass, but only from the top sort of down. So we're going to use vertex colors for that. We're going to need to paint the vertex colors on this. So I'm going to use a vertex paint modifier. Just search for it, vertex paint. This second button from the right will give you the colors for it. Can I show them? I'll have to turn off the textures. Let's just go to standard, might work. And I'm going to fill it all with black. So the fill button, there we go. Okay, so it's all black now. Black is 0. So if black is 0, if we were to multiply wind by 0, we get no wind. So I'm going to go ahead and go into the sub-object vertex mode of the vertex paint. I'm going to grab the top, let's say top 2, for instance, and I'm going to go ahead and set those colors to white. Okay, so they're now white. Why the texture shows through like that, I really don't know, but it does. So we're just going to live with it. And turn off your vertex selection so that essentially we've got the whole thing now. And then you can go on down to this blur all button, and we're going to blur it till it goes to black at the bottom. If you want, you could just sort of make sure back into vertex mode, grab the bottom and make sure it's black. Or you could just, so you can paint that. So, well, let's do it all black. Grab just the top and make it white. See if it'll give us a good result. And fill that with white. Vertex selection off. Blur, blur. Yeah, that might actually be better. There you go. Blur it nicely from the top and bottom. So 1 times wind is the wind, whatever how much of the wind is. 0 times wind is 0. There you go. We're good to go. So we need to move the pivot now to the bottom. So insert on your keyboard and move the pivot down to the bottom. I like to put it a little above the bottom so it sticks into the ground. We don't see the bottom of the grass. Okay, so there's the point there. We're also going to want to reset it. If you notice right now, Y is up in the local, which isn't really what we want. So reset X form, reset selected, and it's reset back to the world coordinates, which is exactly what we're looking for. So there's our piece of grass all reset, vertex colors on it, and it's ready to go. I'm just going to right click object properties. If you forget to turn it off in vertex paint, you can do it here as well, the vertex color channel, so you see the whole thing. Or you can go back to vertex paint and click it off here. Either way, it's up to you. Or if you've collapsed the stack and vertex paint no longer in it, just right click on it. Hit insert again to turn off the edit pivot, and we have grass ready to be exported. So I'm going to call this SM grass demo pen. And of course, over to my game exporter. It looks like my export directory is wrong. And of course, we export that. And we needed to import on the other side, of course. So we'll go and do that next. I'm going to stick it in my trees folder here, maybe trees and foliage type stuff. I've got a foliage folder, but that's for the actual foliage items that have been painted. So I'm going to put it into here as the default. So I'm going to say import into game, and we're going to go and find that. There's my grass demo. And here's something you have to pay attention to, and that's the vertex color import option here. So that needs to be paid attention to. So right now it's set to override with mine because that's what I was probably using last in here. I forget what's default. Override all vertex colors with a specific color. We don't want that. We've set our vertex colors the way we want. So there's replace, and that's replace using the vertex color in the FBX file. That's what we do want. There's also ignore, and that's just keep whatever is existing in the mesh vertex colors if there's one already in the scene. So replace is almost always what I'm looking for, but sometimes I haven't bothered to set it in max, and I always want them to come in as black. If I'm not going to, if I haven't started with them, I always want black, and max defaults to white. So I prefer having them black in the game engine for various reasons. So anyways, we also want to make sure that we do not search, do not create materials, don't import textures. I'm just going to go ahead and say import, and then I'm going to save. So with that saved, we can open up our grass so that we can take a look at it, and we're going to need a material. So I'm going to go down to my materials, demo materials folder, and I'm going to create a new material, and I'm going to call this m_grass demo. I don't think I have one of those already. Nope. And pen, and I will open that up. And back in our textures, I'm going to find that texture. Back to my material, T on the keyboard, left click, and it will make it with that texture included in the texture swatch. So T is for a texture sample. And now the next thing we're going to need is we're going to need to start blowing this around with grass and wind. So we're going to use the simple, if I spell it right, I'd probably find it, simple GrassWind. Simple GrassWind is going to allow us to be able to blow this around. So I'm just going to show this on a card, might make more sense. And it's going to go, simple GrassWind is going to go into world position. And world position is literally the vertices of the mesh. And we're going to move the vertices of the mesh around using this simple grass. So it's erroring right away because these three here that are in white are required to have inputs in them. Now, I don't like this simple GrassWind that much, but it works. I have no idea what this bottom channel does, not a clue. And so if I plug those in, that error message will go away and we can hit save. And we're going to set up some defaults in here. So let's just put the wind intensity, maybe 0.5, and this would be 0.2. I think wind weight or wind speed. No, wind weight. I can't remember. I think I had that at 1 in sort of demos. It's weird. Again, I'm really not quite sure. I write my own. So yeah, you can see maybe wind weight is too high, but I don't know what wind weight is compared to wind speed or wind intensity. I'm not really sure, but you can see. So wind speed looks like it might need to be controlled. Wind speed probably needs to not make it move so fast, maybe a 0.2. Let's see what that does. And there's our wind kind of blowing around what we're doing so far. So I'm just going to hit save so that it's been evaluated here. And we're going to go down and go look for the wind grass wind demo. And you'll now notice that our wind is blowing all over the place. So our piece of grass is just kind of doing this funky dance and doesn't look a whole lot like grass because the whole thing's blowing around. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the vertex colors that we have and we're going to use those to be able to control where it's blowing around. So back in our material again, then we're going to go get the vertex color node. And so there's the vertex colors. We can use any channel out of this or the whole channel. It really doesn't matter. You can actually use, there's a cool way to do it is use different colored channels, RG and B, to control different properties of the wind. We've just got the same grayscale value in all of them, so it really doesn't matter. I'm going to throw in a multiply, and I'm just going to multiply it by the full vertex colors because we're not doing anything fancy here. And let's just hit save on this. That hits the apply button as well if you hadn't figured that out yet. And so now you can see that the wind is only affecting the top of the grass and not the bottom of the grass. So it's kind of blowing around a little bit there. So now we can go about playing with, wind intensity or whatever else. What you should do is make obviously a complete material with a normal map and control your specular levels. You should obviously make a material instance of this would be a good idea. In this case, it'll be the same grass on all of them, so it probably won't matter that much if you make a material instance, but I find it's really handy because it's faster sort of real-time feedback when you make changes to it to dial in your wind strength and everything. So now we've got the wind blowing around. It's not two-sided, which we need, so I forgot that. So let's go back over and we'll turn on use two-sided. And again, we'll hit save. Now you can see the grass on both sides. Beautiful. We've got wind kind of blowing around. And like I said, I don't particularly like this wind so much, but hey, it looks windy. It's close enough. Keep it subtle. Keep it subtle is what it boils down to. It doesn't need to be going crazy. Anyways, that's exactly what I did. And then you can use the foliage painting tool to add grass to your scene. But you might want to, in Max, take this piece of grass now that you have it and make little bunches of grass instead of just a blade. It'll be faster in Unreal for it to calculate if you've got these little bunches and just attach them together. But do it after you've done all of these steps so that you've got your vertex colors being baked into it in one go. So there you go. There is simple GrassWind on grass.